Hey, I'm Geeky Pastimes, and in this video, I'm going to give you 5 of the best tips I can for people who are starting out on Twitch. Now, all of them I think are super important. All of them are things that I think I wish I'd known right at the start. And all of them, including, I think, probably the last one, are things that I don't think get said enough in these kind of videos. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Geeky Pastimes. I started my Twitch channel last year in about March time, and at this point I'm now on over 13,000 followers. So not all of that, was just skill and making good decisions. A lot of luck's involved in it, but I want to pass on some of the best tips I possibly can for things that I think are good ideas for almost anyone who wants to get started on Twitch. So, just to give you a little bit of backstory on this, I've done videos like this before. I've watched a lot of videos of some brilliant advice videos from people like Alpha Gaming and Harris Heller. That's where I got a lot of advice from when I was starting on it. I've spoken to a lot of streamers, a lot of streamers who are just starting out, a lot of streamers who are about the same kind of level as I am, and some streamers who are absolutely huge, who have been kind enough to give me their time and their advice. And I kind of just wanted to put together some ideas of things that I think maybe aren't said enough, or things where I think something differently to what a lot of other content creators think of. So the first thing I want to talk about, the first tip, is probably the most important thing that if you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to start Twitch soon, the thing that you need to hear straight away: don't buy too much stuff. So, make sure you buy the bare minimum of gear. I think when you start out, it's very, very tempting, especially if you've got a little bit more money, if you've got a bit of money to spend on it, it's very tempting to invest in a lot of stuff, and to think that you're investing. So people often, think, right, I'm going to definitely need to get like a cam link, and I'm going to need to get like a really fancy camera to use as my webcam, and I'm going to need to like buy a really, really powerful PC, and I'm going to need a 2 PC setup, so I need a streaming PC as well. And then all of the cables comes with that. I'm going to need a fancy chair, fancy desk, some nano leaves behind me, all of that stuff, and you just don't need it. Like, it's definitely fun to buy, and I mean, I have picked up a lot of these things over the last year, but I would say basically none of them have really helped me gain more followers or made me any money or anything like that. They've been nice things to have. They've been things that make me happy about things to do with the stream, but they're not an investment. They're kind of a luxury, really. And I wish I'd known that earlier on, because I think I've wasted quite a lot of money over this year spending money on things that I think like, yeah, this is going to help me grow, this is going to help my channel, and it just doesn't. So the minimum of gear, the things that I think you need are, first of all, a decent, at least USB mic. I know lots of people use XLR mics, and I haven't got one of those yet. I'm still using USB mic. One day I might do, but you need a mic that's better than just, your headset. Audio is really important. I think that comes across in nearly every sort of decent guide to Twitch. The audio is more important than video. Loads of people who watch you will be watching you on their phones. Loads of people will have you on in the background while they do something else. They probably won't even be watching a lot of the stuff you're doing, but they will be listening to you. And you need to make that experience as good as possible. So if you're going to spend money on anything, really, the microphone is probably the thing that matters the most. And you can get good, relatively cheap microphones. And I say relatively because obviously you could spend thousands of pounds on a microphone, and that's a waste of money. But you could get a microphone for that sort of, between £50 and £150. You can get some really, really good mics there. I used a Blue Yeti. That's what this is. That's what I'm talking on now. I quite like it because it sounds quite warm, and it's, obviously very, very easy to use. It's just you plug it in with USB. I do actually have an Elgato Wave 1 as well, which I think is it's a good mic. The software that you get with it is really, really good, really, really interesting, and I'll talk a bit more about software later. I actually moved to that to try and solve a problem with this mic, and it didn't end up working out, but I kept it because I thought maybe it might be useful to have 2 mics if ever one breaks. So I've got a spare at the moment, but definitely I think that's something that's worth putting a little bit of money into, because so many people are going to be just listening to you, and if it's unpleasant to listen to, you've probably had the same. You've probably gone to a Twitch stream and there's been someone who seems fun, but their microphone's really bad or the sound quality is really bad, and you just don't want to listen to it, so you leave. and that's a real problem. The next thing to probably buy is if you're playing on consoles, you probably need a capture card. While you can stream directly from the consoles, I don't think it's a particularly good idea. I don't think it works great. It doesn't give you much control over kind of your layout and your overlays and stuff like that, at least at the moment. And you sometimes get like weird problems with it that because you don't have much control, you can't really solve. I think a capture card's a really good idea. I use, again, Elgato. I use the Elgato HD60S Plus, which is a really good one. There are ones that pass through at sort of lower resolution or capture at a lower resolution, frame rate and things like that, which are absolutely fine. I've used a Razer Ripsaw HD before, and that was absolutely fine. It just didn't have the HDR pass through, which is what I needed, which is why I got the Elgato. But definitely a capture card is the other thing. That's probably a bit pricey. You're probably going to end up spending like 100 quid on that, but that is very, very useful. And then finally, you need a webcam. Like a webcam, I think, is really useful. While some people who have been established for a very long while get away without a webcam, and it's definitely possible, especially if like the thing that you're streaming is your skill. Like if you're really, really good at a certain game, or you're doing speed runs or something, then a webcam's probably less important. But if you're like me and the main thing that you want people to watch you for is for the interaction and for you, essentially, then you really need a webcam, I think. So it's worth getting a webcam. And again, you don't really need an amazing webcam. I used for ages a Logitech C920. I think lots of people use that. It's a really, really good one. Obviously, they're a little bit trickier to get hold of, but it's better than it was last year. If you're just doing, YouTube content, you could get away with just using your phone, because your phone's almost certainly got an amazing camera on it. But I think a webcam's worth picking up, and it's worth looking around. Lots of people will be upgrading their webcams and have been upgrading their webcams over the year. So it's worth looking at secondhand sites, because you're probably going to be able to find something that will work absolutely fine. You don't need to be super high resolution, 720p is fine. You don't need to be super high frame rate, 30 frames per second, probably fine. Just try and make sure you've got something. And you can normally make, quite a bad webcam. I say bad, a cheap webcam, I suppose. You can only make a cheap webcam look quite good. Just read reviews and make sure it's not absolutely terrible. But then with a little bit of careful kind of setup, you can make most webcams look all right. And remember, it's only going to be a tiny, tiny part of your stream anyway. It's only going to be a small part of the stream. So the quality of that is much less important than the quality of microphone. Now, everything else you can almost definitely cobble together. Like, I know people talk about lighting and people go out and buy expensive key lights and things like that. You don't need that. Right now I'm using Hue play bars, which I used to have stuck to the back of my TVs downstairs. And now I've just brought them up here because they're quite useful to control the lighting. You can use any kind of light. You can use lamps and things like that. Just position them well to give yourself some good lighting. You don't need a fancy gamer chair or desk. Like, this desk is from IKEA. It was like the cheapest desk IKEA did that I could fit everything on. I don't even know where this chair's from. I think it was from Argos. It does squeak quite a lot. But everything else you can kind of make do with, and especially when you're starting out, you're not going to be making a lot of money at the beginning, and so it doesn't make sense to invest in loads of stuff when you're not really going to get much benefit from it. So I would say get the minimum, get a microphone, get a capture card if you're going to be streaming from consoles, and get a webcam. Everything else you should be able to find a way to make do. And then when you start streaming, you might find later that actually there's something that would be really, really useful for you. But a lot of the stuff that you see other streamers do and other streamers use hardware for, expensive hardware for, you can actually do for free with software, which is what we're going to talk about next. So the next thing I want to talk about is software. There's a huge amount of free software available, and really, really good free software. And I'll put links to all of this below in the description, all the things that I'm going to talk about. But these are pieces of software that are either free or very, very cheap. And they're things that are way cheaper than buying the hardware that will do the same job. Now, obviously, this is a lot easier to use if you've got some way of controlling the software, not on a PC that you're playing on. So if you've got it on sort of like a tablet nearby, a lot of these things can be controlled through that. Or you've got a second monitor or something like that. Or even better, if you do have two computers, so you're streaming from one that you can control and then gaming from the other. That makes this stuff a bit easier. But a lot of it is stuff that you can just set up and then just go with, basically. So one of the first things I'd say, which kind of links to the hardware thing in the past, lots of people will recommend a Stream Deck, which Stream Decks are really, really handy. I've got my little Elgato one here, and it is a very, very handy thing. And basically it's a set of physical buttons that you can sort of map to whatever you want. So you can use it for things like starting a stream, stopping a stream, recording, changing volume levels, anything you want, really, changing scenes. That's the kind of thing that I normally use it for. You don't need to buy a Stream Deck. Like, they are great to have. They're a nice little extra thing to have, but you don't need one. There is a couple of pieces of software. Elgato actually make a mobile app called Stream Deck Mobile that I think you have to pay a little bit for, but it's way cheaper than the hardware. And that works fine. It works exactly the same way. You can map a load of buttons to it, map as many buttons as you want to it, and then it will connect to your PC and connect to OBS and things like that. And then you can use that to control your stream, just in exactly the same way as you would a Stream Deck. There's also a thing called Touch Portal, which you can get, which I think is free. And on Touch Portal, again, does exactly the same thing. So lots and lots of buttons, works with loads of different types of software. Really, really useful. Another thing that I'd recommend, lots of people talk about, the Wave 1 that I talked about. Elgato has its amazing like audio mixing software that you can use with that. There is a free alternative, which I actually use and I've been using on my stream for a long while, and that's called Voice Meter Banana. And it's software that's entirely free. You can donate to support them, which I recommend because they're awesome. But Voice Meter Banana basically lets you control a load of different it creates a load of inputs and outputs for your PC, and you can choose which programs go to which inputs, so you can control the levels of all of them, and you can choose the outputs. You can choose 2 different outputs and choose what goes to each output. So I have stuff that goes to my stream and then stuff that goes to my headphones. And this piece of software is so powerful. It lets me control the audio from 2 different PCs and the 2 different outputs, and put it all together in a way that I can control everything and it sounds nice. It's unbelievably useful. It's surprisingly simple to use. It looks really complex when you set it up, but you can watch one YouTube video on how to do it, and it'll make everything really obvious to you. And it's just incredibly handy. It's also got loads of extra features, which I don't really delve with, but you can change, the profile of some of the sounds and things like that and do some really clever things with it if you're really good with audio. So Voice Meter Banana, incredible bit of free software. And the last one that I'd say, which is super important, is OBS. I know there's lots of other streaming software. I know NVIDIA have some stuff, and it's like XLive. I personally think OBS is brilliant. It's sort of the standard that a lot of streamers use. It's open broadcast software, so lots of people add things onto it. There's lots of new features coming out for it all the time, and lots of things that you get elsewhere will like work as kind of a plug-in with OBS, which is really, really handy. OBS completely free, really, really powerful. You can use it to stream with, you can use it to record it. I'm recording this video on it, but I will use it to stream with later today. And it lets you control basically everything. And lots of things will sort of connect to it, like I said, with plugins or, things like the Stream Decks or the Stream Deck software will work with it. OBS is really useful. Now, I use a version of OBS called OBS Live, which is connected to Stream Elements, and lots of people use Stream Elements or Streamlabs to control their overlays. I prefer Stream Elements to Streamlabs just because Stream Elements, everything's free in it. Like, you can do everything in Stream Elements for free. Streamlabs tries to charge you for things like, certain overlays or certain features, which I don't really like. So Stream Elements, really, really good. Lets you set up things like donation pages, lets you set up overlays, lets you have all your overlays on the internet. So if, say, you switch between PCs or something bad happens to your PC, you don't lose your overlays because it's all just on a website. So you can just get up and running much, much quicker. I found it incredibly helpful. I found it incredibly useful. So Stream Elements, absolutely brilliant. And they have kind of a plug-in to OBS, a sort of slightly different version of OBS that lets everything work. So you can get things like chat and you can control all of your overlays through that. So definitely get those pieces of software and have a go using them. Now, the third piece of advice that we're going to talk about is something that I think lots of people make a mistake with early on. And I see it a lot on Twitter, especially. And I sort of like cringe a little bit every time I do, because I don't think these people realize how much they're hurting their own kind of growth. And that is, don't use a logo for your profile picture. Don't worry about creating a logo. Don't pay for a logo when you first start off. Use your profile picture as a way to let people know who you are. Have your face in it. So choose a name. It's really important to choose a name early on, and one that you're going to be happy with. You know, I've used a couple of different names in the past, and I'm still like, every now and then I regret being called Geeky Pastimes because, you know, obviously the sort of connotations of the word geeky, although that's getting better, I think, so that's fine. But definitely choose a name that you're happy with and that you really, really like. And then get a photo of yourself. Just like a photo of yourself, preferably on a very plain background so it's easy to edit out, so you can change the color of the background and things like that. You know, put a slightly funny face if that's part of your personality, put a serious face if that's your personality, whatever you think fits you. But get a photo of yourself where it's very clearly you, and then use that everywhere, because then people will start knowing who you are. When they come to your streams, they'll see you, and that's the thing they'll be there for. A logo doesn't ever have that connection for people, you know. I mean, maybe sort of like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or something, after decades of intense marketing, but your logo won't matter to most people. It'll just blend in with all of the other thousands of logos that are kind of similar. I have a logo, which was designed for me by a friend who was absolutely awesome. And I use it, you know, on merch a little bit, and I use it occasionally when I really need one. But it's much, much, much less important than profile picture, which I use on basically everything. So get a profile picture, you know, just get a picture of yourself, and then make sure you've made, like, I normally have like a circular version of it and a square version of it, depending on the website. And then use that for everything. Use the same picture for everything. It's really, really good to try and build a relationship with your followers in terms of they are coming there to see you. And a logo just won't do that. And also, loads of people spend money getting a logo made for them, which is just a waste of money early on. Like, eventually, maybe you'll need one, but at the beginning, don't worry about it. The fourth thing is more of a kind of time thing than anything, and that's make videos and get used to using OBS a long time before you start streaming. Don't jump in streaming. If you're watching this video now thinking of starting streaming, don't start streaming today. You really want to be used to OBS. You want to be used to all of your hardware and all of your software before you get streaming. And anyway, you're never going to be discovered on Twitch. Like, it's so unbelievably unlikely that anyone will discover you on Twitch. You really want to be using videos on things like YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or wherever else you're going to be discovered. So make videos for that, using all of your gear, and get used to using it. Because with a video, you've always got the chance to do another take, to go back and change things, to have another go at it. And that means when you do start streaming, you're not going to be stressing about how things work. You're not going to be stressing about setting things up and all of that kind of thing. And that's really, really important, because that kind of detracts from you looking at chat. I hate it when I have a technical issue, because that means I'm not reading chat and I'm not paying attention to chat. And then inevitably, there's kind of creates some distance, and I don't like that. So you want to be very, very confident with your whole setup. And the best way to do that, just make some videos. I strongly think you should just make some guide videos, because then you're going to be talking over gameplay. You might be talking while you're playing. You'll get used to that kind of way of talking, which is a skill. It's a skill you need to practice. But then you'll also get a sense of how your volume levels should be. You'll get a sense of, you know, where you should sit, where your camera should be, where your lighting should be, things like that. And then once you get that right and you've got some videos you're happy with, put them up on YouTube. And then if there are any glaring problems, things that you've missed, things you haven't noticed, don't worry, people in the comments will point them out to you. And you know, you can fix them if you think they really are problems. And then you can also, in all those videos, talk about your Twitch channel. Say, go leave me a follow. I'm going to be streaming on here. And then, you know, after you've got a few people watching your videos, which they will discover your videos on YouTube, if you're making things like guides, if you're doing guides for whatever it is, you know, whatever video game you play, whatever mode you play, if you make guides, people will come watch it. Maybe not loads at first, but people will come and watch some of them. And have, you know, your face on there, have your webcam on, almost set it up as if you would be doing a stream. Then when you get onto streaming, when you actually start streaming, you'll be confident straight away, and it'll be a lot more fun, and it'll be a lot more fun for your viewers, and people who come over won't be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or, you know, this girl doesn't know how her setup works. Instead, they'll be like, oh, these people are awesome. Like, these people are people that, you know, are maybe underappreciated, and people love that. Like, people love finding someone that other people haven't heard of. So there is sort of, you know, a little bit of kind of excitement around it. And if you're good at it from the get-go, I think people are more likely to stick around. So the fifth thing that we're going to talk about, and the last thing, and this is probably the thing, like I said at the beginning, I think is the most important. I think it's the thing that people get wrong the most. And the thing that I sort of constantly have to remind myself of all the time is focus on growth and not monetization. Like, all you should care about is organic growth. And by organic, I mean you're not buying followers, you're not signing up for one of these stupid follow sites, you're not just begging your friends and family to come and watch you. Instead, you're focusing on ways that you can get people to come and watch you, ways that you can get followers. So like I said, making YouTube videos, posting stuff on Twitter, advertising your channel through Instagram or TikTok or things like that. Focus on getting that follower number up, and more importantly, the viewer number up. And then when people come to watch your channel, when you're streaming, talk to them, get to know them a little bit, get to sort of like, get to have the point where people will come back because they enjoy talking to you, they enjoy listening to you. That's the goal. Now, I'm at a point where I can sort of fairly confidently, if I go on a stream, I'll probably have, I don't know, 40, 50 people come watch me. That's still at a point where I need to make sure I'm doing everything I can to make sure they come back and to try and encourage new people to come and watch me. You know, that's part of what this video is about, is encouraging some of you to watch me. I'm Geeky Pastimes on Twitch. But that growth is much more important, because if you focus on monetizing too early, you're going to do two things. One, you're going to push people away because people don't like monetization. They don't like adverts. They don't like you talking about products and things like that. It's always something that's kind of people put up with while they watch your content. It's not why they watch it. If they're already unsure about you, they're not going to stick around when it gets to the adverts. If you've already if they're already a bit more invested in you, then you've got a better chance. So that's something you can do later down the line. The second thing that's going to happen if you monetize too early is you're not going to make any money, or you're going to make very little money. I see lots of people pushing for affiliate on Twitch, or pushing for partnership on YouTube, or pushing to get sponsors and things like that. And like I said, I've been entirely guilty of this myself. And then you get those things, and then you realize, oh, you're making, you know, a couple of pounds for hours of streaming. It's not worth it. Whereas if you focus on the growth and you get to the point where you're steadily getting lots and lots of people watching you, you're getting lots and lots of views, then when you do monetize, you're going to be making some more sort of serious money that means something. So focus entirely on growth for as long as you can possibly hold out before you need to monetize. And that comes with a lot of things, you know, don't quit your job before you've started your channels. Don't turn it into a full-time thing before you know that you've actually got a following. Try to think realistically about it, that for a long time, you're going to be focusing entirely on growth. And I don't think it's ever a good idea to stop focusing on growth. You always want to be growing. And there's going to be a time where it makes sense to make money. You know, there's going to be a time where you realize, actually, this is something I can make money from. And that's fine. But when you're starting out, that's not the priority. Because the earlier you monetize and the more aggressively you monetize, the more you're going to harm your growth. And it's kind of, you know, this constant balance thing where the more growth you have, the more money you make, but the more money you make, the less growth you have. So you always want to keep growth as your priority. You always want to keep that at the top. So that's the most important thing, is like when you're doing all of this, you should always be thinking not how can I make money out of these people, but how can I get more people to watch me? So with that in mind, how can I get more people to watch me? Please go over to Twitch. Go follow me. I'm Geeky Pastimes, so twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes. Go follow me over there. Very much appreciate it, and you'll see loads of great streams. We have a good laugh over there. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, share it about. If it helped you, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any more questions, you're starting out on Twitch, you're using some of the software I've talked about, anything like that, if it's something a bit more in depth, maybe come over to the stream and ask me, and then I'm more than happy to talk people through. I always show people how the software works and things like that if they ask. If it's something quick, then just leave it in the comments, leave questions, or if there's any other things you'd like me to make videos explaining, you know, anything to do with my setup or anything to do with how I use some of that software, let me know in the comments and I'll check it out. But thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.